So the Retroid Pocket 2. This was obviously a little bit frustrating. It didn't have the greatest Android and it didn't have touchscreen. But, so we've got the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus now. It's got touchscreen, it's got a better processor, it's got a better Android system working on it. We're going to do an unboxing and we're going to give you my thoughts on this next. Okay guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. I'm going to be doing an unboxing, review and play on the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. Let's get this thing unboxed. Yeah, the box is pretty much unexciting, it's pretty plain, there's nothing really on it. You can see the different variations that you can get, the different colours. Purple, which is like a Game Boy Advance. You got this one here, and you can see I've obviously got the black one. Anyway, let's get this unboxed. Okay guys, just before I get started, this is the company who I purchased this from, droids.co.uk. They've also got an international website as well. I would highly recommend them. Probably not the cheapest on the market, but they are the most reliable that I've found. Absolutely fantastic. Next day service, absolutely perfect. Cannot fault them one bit at all. So in the box you also get a little user guide. You've got a screen protector, which is quite cool, and you have your usual charging cable. USB-C charging cable too. Okay, comes in this nice protective seal. Ta-ra! Okay, as you can see, I have purchased the black version, and it looks obviously like a PlayStation 2. And it looks really cool, no doubt about it. The design of the Retroid Pocket 2 is absolutely fantastic. That's something they've definitely nailed. Now interestingly, we've got obviously touchscreen this time. We've got a faster processor. Apparently we're capable of playing some Gamecube games and maybe even some Wii games. We'll try that out and see what we think, but I'm not really hoping for too much. Let's have a look at the design. So on the bottom here you've got your memory card. There was no memory card in this, I had to provide my own. This is your headphone jack. It's pretty much exactly the same as the Retroid Pocket 2. There's very little differences. You've got your on-off switch here, your volumes, you've got your USB-C charging dock here, and this is a mini HDMI out so that you can actually put it onto your TV. Obviously you'll have to purchase the cable here that goes with that. Thankfully I purchased one with the original device. See the L2, R2 and L1 and R1 buttons, pretty much exactly the same. There's very little differences. You can see you've got your front speakers, home button, select, start. Nice feeling left thumbstick. The D-pad feels nice too. They do seem slightly more raised if I have a quick look at that here. Yeah, the D-pad does seem as if it's slightly more raised than the original. That's definitely the only differences. We've still got this crazy little nub, which I don't really see what the point is. And we've got the A, B and X, Y buttons. You can see they are slightly more raised. What we'll do is bring in the original just so you can actually see the difference. You can see that they're actually slightly more raised. If you look at this, this is the original. You can see they're looking pretty flat. So that's obviously one design change that they have done, and obviously the D-pad looks a little more flat as well. I'll try and get them in the same shot. You can see that the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, the D-pad is slightly more raised. I'll try and get that. The buttons, you can see that the buttons are definitely more raised on the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. So apart from that, the design is pretty much exactly the same. It's the same shell that they've used, but obviously there are differences which make this thing a little bit more powerful than the Retroid Pocket 2, which was a frustrating device with the limited touchscreen. There was no touchscreen, and the Android facility that was included was really poor. Obviously you could update this to the Android 8, but that was a nightmare to do, and it really didn't make a heck of a lot of difference to performance. So guys, we'll just look at the specifications now and even compare that to the original Retroid Pocket 2. You can see it's got a faster sort of faster processor. Obviously it's using a better version of Android, which should help. The resolution of the screen isn't really amazing. Not will that really affect things, and most games probably play fine at about 480p anyway. But it doesn't compare well if you compare it, for example, to the recent Ambernic RG552, which has a far bigger screen and obviously has that kind of full high definition sort of screen, which is absolutely fantastic. So that could hold this device back. Okay, just showing you how long it actually takes to boot up from a start. It's actually not too bad at all. You get this sort of cool Game Boy Advance sort of style opening, which is pretty nice. And then you get the... So when you actually boot it up for the first time, you will have to actually set it up and go through the usual setup malarkey. It doesn't take too long to do. And obviously you have now touchscreen, so you can now create a password to actually open. Okay guys, when you actually first turn this on, you will probably have to go and check for an update to the Android system. It's in settings. You go to system at the bottom here, and at the bottom you'll see updater. If you go to updater, check for update, and it will probably hopefully update you to the latest version of Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. This is probably quite important because there's been a few updates recently that should hopefully make the process a lot easier than it is from the off. It certainly adds a few fixes that will probably help the process a little bit more straightforward. Help a little bit of button mapping, for example. So the first thing you would probably do is go to your Play Store and set up an account and download some apps, because there really wasn't anything. There's no ROMs included with this device. So word of warning, before we even get started, if you are not comfortable with setting things up, adding ROMs, creating accounts and all that kind of thing with apps, then this isn't the device for you. It's not a plug and play like some other devices. Like for instance, Ambernic devices, some of them have ROMs already. You've got an operating system, you're good to go. This doesn't even have a dual boot as such, it really just has the Android system. Okay, once you've got some apps set up, you'll maybe want to download a few apps. Make sure you've got the PPSP, M64, Flycast, Redream, for example. And there's all sorts of apps here. The Dolphin one for your Wii and Gamecube. You've got DuckStation for PlayStation games. I've downloaded a few apps we'll have a look at as well. You've got GTA 3, Sonic, for example. This is actually a PS2 app, which I'm going to maybe trial and see if this actually works and how well it actually plays PlayStation 2 games. Now it really depends. I wouldn't expect too much off of this thing, but it can play some. Okay, probably the best place to start is get your memory card inserted at the bottom here, and then you'll probably have to format it. Now it's not clear what exactly you're supposed to do because there's no instructions. It doesn't tell you how to go about this. So the first thing to do is get your memory card inserted in, and then go to Retroid Launcher, which is up the top here. Now this is probably kind of like a dual boot system, so to speak, and it will set up all your apps for you, but you need to go through and follow some processes before you can get to this stage. Okay, once you actually set this up, you need to go to setup, and then you really need to create your ROM folder, which is here. So once you've got your memory card inserted, if you create this ROM folder, it will add sort of folders to your actual memory card so that you can then go and add your ROMs to it. And this is definitely the first point of contact that you have to do if you want to use this properly. Otherwise you're going to have a bit of a nightmare trying to set this up. You could create the folders yourself and just point the whatever app to a specific folder, but this is the easiest way to actually do it. So I'll show you what it's like once you actually get the memory card with all the folders inserted. Just add all the ROMs to the specific folders. It's pretty straightforward, and then you'll need your BIOS files, for example, for each game that you're going to be playing. Okay, once you've actually run through the process with your memory card, you get this Retroid Pocket Games folder created. Just ignore these folders are the ones that I've added myself, just so that I can point, if I'm going to play these games, I'm going to point it to this location, because the Retroid Pocket Games does not add these here. So if you go into Retroid Pocket Games, you've got 3 folders: BIOS, ports and ROMs. Now all your BIOS have to get dropped into here. you may not have this. You're going to have to do some searching and hunting and to get all these different folders and kickstarts. You won't need all of these, but obviously recommended you will need some minimum ones to actually get started, depending on what you're actually going to be playing. ROMs, obviously you've got all these folders. This is where you drop all your ROMs, sometimes in zip format and sometimes in the original format. For example, if you go into Dreamcast, it probably should recognise CDI, and you can even have them within folders itself with like bin files. Game Boy Advance, obviously you want to have it .gba. Sometimes it will recognise them in zip files and sometimes they won't. It really depends on the format and the type of, like for instance, MAME will always be in zip format. And it obviously varies between formats. Now this is something you're going to have to go through and set up and add all your ROMs before you actually get started. So please bear that in mind before you actually purchase one of these, that it will take time to actually set this up. Now as you can see, interestingly, there is a PS2 folder, there is a Wii folder, and there is a Gamecube folder, so you can add some ROMs in here, ISO files for example. I'm not saying they're all going to work. Some do perform better than others. We'll find that out later in the video. And then you'll have a sort of folder structure a little bit like this, and then you'll have ROMs within it. And you can see you can play Sega Saturn, whatever games you got. You can see here you've got your B that goes back and A for OK. So just remember, you've got some instructions down the bottom. That should help you sort of get through the screen here. So you've got systems. These are all the systems that you've got options for. Just make sure all the ones that you've got games for are ticked. It also depends what ROMs you've got included in this. So if you don't have any ROMs, this will probably most likely not show up. But this is probably the best way of playing it. You still have to do a little bit of work within it though. You've got BIOS, RetroArch setup. You need to go through some of these settings and set it up. So if you go back to the sort of main screen here, you need to add apps. So at the bottom here it shows you add app, and then you can choose an app here that you can actually add to the system. Just remember that when you're doing this too. Then you can sort of play games via the app rather than going through the individual apps. So everything is really all in the one location. It is pretty good, but it is very tedious to actually set up. If you're not comfortable with this, you could have a nightmare with it. But the thing that I found with it, it's not totally apparent what you're supposed to do with this when you actually boot it up. There's no instructions for it. It really can be frustrating. Obviously there are guides out there that people have already done, which is fine, but it can be frustrating. If you're a newbie, this is not the sort of handheld for you. I wouldn't recommend it. There's no doubt though, once you get things set up, it's definitely a very capable sort of device. Okay, in some of these instances, obviously you need to add the ROMs. You've got the folder set up, you need to sort of choose ROMs. This is obviously Genesis we're doing. You need to add, you can choose the default SD card directory by default, and it will just find that Genesis folder for you. You can just press the scan button, and it should hopefully scan for some games that are in here, and hopefully get them added to the actual screen. A little bit of a painful process that you need to go through, which is a little bit annoying. As you can see here, it picks up the word art, so it picks up the game art, and you can then get started and play the games. So let's maybe quickly show you one of these games, just for example. It should play all your lower end 16-bit, 8-bit stuff absolutely fine. It's obviously the 32-bit and above that we're probably more interested at this point. So just press this arrow button to get rid of the buttons. And you can see we are away. It does actually sound quite nice. It should recognise the actual buttons. Oh, it doesn't, so I need to press start obviously to actually get started. Now obviously this is working really well. It actually looks great and plays fantastic. But obviously this is not really why you would be buying this. I think you'd probably be more interested in the higher end stuff and what it's actually capable of. So let's have a look at some of them and see how well it actually plays. I have to say I'm not really a massive fan of this. Sometimes you have hit and miss. Button mapping is also an issue, with sometimes the button mapping isn't particularly great. It doesn't recognise all the buttons, so you have to go about sort of setting up all the buttons and doing the button mapping thing through RetroArch or through these individual sort of apps here. It really is a pain. I'm really quite surprised, but with the Armbrunic RG552 there was no button mapping required at all. It just recognised what buttons were which, but for this device it really seems to be very hit and miss to what buttons are recognised. A lot of the time you actually have to go about actually mapping the buttons for each app itself, and it really is a total pain. Again, more time spent doing this rather than actually playing any games. No doubt about the fact that it's touchscreen is really an improvement over the original, because not having that touchscreen when you're using Android is just a total disaster, and it seems to work pretty well. So actually, to exit this app you need to press the quit button and it'll take you back to your main sort of selection screen. Now a lot of the times I've actually found playing through the apps is probably a little bit better, but it is nice having that Retroid launcher as a point here. You've got your RetroArch as well. You may need to download that from Google. As I say, when I kicked this up there was very little apps on this device. You probably have to go through Google and add them all. You've got your Redream, which is for your Dreamcast games, and obviously you still need to go through here adding your game library here too as well. And let's sort of do this on the screen. Probably your let's see where they are. Okay, just find it. So to add the games, generally, obviously it's on the storage card. Just need to find the relevant folder. ROMs. Oh yeah, there we go. Dreamcast. Soul Calibur was a problem on the original Retroid Pocket, which really didn't emulate very well at all. You see, absolutely runs no problem at all. For Dreamcast games, for by and large, I've found it to be absolutely brilliant. There's no doubt about it. The actual screen size probably suits this down to a T, and it looks fantastic. Plays really well, no doubt about it. Really, really good. Oh, let me see. So let's try Dead or Alive 2. So far, actually, no problem at all. You can see this game usually struggles in a lot of systems. It plays really, really well on here. There's very little slowdown. I don't see any issues at all. So that is quite impressive, no doubt about it. For Dreamcast, this is very good. So guys, we've now got this booted up to the TV so you can get a better look and feel for the games and how they actually perform. We're going to start with Saturn, maybe move on to Gamecube and Wii and other sort of formats, and we'll sort of summarise at the end of the video.
Soul Calibur. Versus Talim. She rides the wind.
Don't worry, Talim. Believe in yourself.
Battle 1. Fight! Get ready for the next battle.
あ、それで進めてくれ。
Round 1. Fight! You win. Round 2. I must return fire!
Choose your car. Ready? Set, go!
Guys, I've tried both of these games, Sonic Colors and Paper Mario, but neither of them wanted to load. Not sure what was doing wrong, but I have played these games on other devices before. Sonic Colors, the performance was pretty awful, but Paper Mario should be possible on this device, but for some reason the games wouldn't load. But they should be possible. I need to do some more background checking on those ones. But like GameCube, we will probably play some games, and a lot of games probably be completely unplayable. So bear that in mind if you are trying to play Wii games and GameCube games for that matter.
choose a new.
You mad dogging me, man.
Come on, move it. What you wanna do then, fool?
Okay guys, so my final thoughts on the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. There's no doubt it's a very capable machine, but when you first get it, it really is a bit of a pain to actually set up. So the sort of recent updates have probably helped in making some issues sort of not there that were in the original sort of versions of it, where the button mapping was a bit of a pain and setup was an absolute nightmare. It's not quite as bad as it was in the startup, but it does still take a lot of effort to actually set it up. So if you are a total novice to setting up Retroid Pockets or even emulation handheld devices, I would not recommend coming to this device because it is a lot of hard work. There's no ROMs included. All the setup is required to be done by yourself. Obviously that's not totally unusual to handhelds, but if you're no experienced in it, it may be a little bit of a frustrating experience, and I'd probably recommend even go for the original Retroid Pocket 2 or even an Anbernic handheld device. But there's no doubt that some of the games, like obviously playing games like Dead or Alive on the Dreamcast here, it is really impressive. It's playing Dreamcast, N64 and PSP so much better than the last generation that it is very impressive indeed. There's no doubt about it. And obviously having that touchscreen facility in this device now, it's making a huge difference. Obviously the screen does get a little bit dirty when you're actually playing, but it's still very good. It's a huge improvement over the Retroid Pocket 2, no doubt about it. Although there are some drawbacks that I obviously want to sort of highlight here, which, you know, don't get too excited about. Playing GameCube games, Wii games, PS2 games, it really isn't there yet. Okay, for example, try to play F-Zero X here on the GameCube. You can see the performance is really all over the place. Now try to sort of fix that and try and make it a little bit better with changing some of the settings. It really doesn't make a lot of difference, to be honest. Now some games you will be able to play on the GameCube, the Wii, occasional games on the PS2, but honestly do not expect too much because the performance is all over the place. It's still very early days yet for playing these type of games. Admittedly though, you have to look at the price point of $99 or maybe £100 odd. It's really good value for money compared to, for example, the RG552, which is probably one of its direct competitors. Admittedly, the RG552 does have that HD screen and it has got a larger screen. It's a bigger device and all, but the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus is more compact. It does feel nicer in the hands for sure. It's really up to you which device you really prefer to go for. The performance of each are pretty much similar. They both play the sort of similar types games. It's really up to you how much you get out of this device and how much time you spend it. You could probably eat more performance out of these devices the longer you spend with it. Both of them are decent machines, but don't expect too much from GameCube, Wii and PS2. It's still very early days. I think it's going to take some time before we can play full speed these games on these devices, that's for sure, if at all. But no doubt, Dreamcast, PSP, N64, the performance is probably the best we've probably seen yet on any handheld device. It really is that good. If that's what's floating your boat, this will be perfect for you. So guys, thanks for watching my video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you again next time. Bye for now.